Welcome to After Dark Chronicles, where the real stories come out. When the sun goes down, the truth comes up. Tonight's story. A woman accidentally discovered her husband was cheating, not through texts or lipstick stains, but through an Apple AirTag she'd put in her keys. What started as a way to stop losing her belongings became the evidence that destroyed her marriage, exposed a web of lies, and revealed a betrayal so deep it involved her own family. This is her story. This story comes from Reddit, posted by a 31-year-old woman who thought she had the perfect marriage, until a small tracking device showed her the truth she'd been blind to for years. Here's what she wrote. I'm 31 years old. I've been married to my husband Derek for 7 years. We met in college, started dating senior year, got married 2 years after graduation. Everyone always said we were the perfect couple. We rarely fought. We had similar goals. We wanted the same things out of life. 2 kids, a house in the suburbs, stable careers. We were living the dream, or so I thought. I work as a project manager at a marketing firm. Derek is a sales executive at a tech company. We both work long hours, but we always made time for each other. Date nights, every Friday. Sunday morning pancakes. Little traditions that kept us connected. About 6 months ago, I started noticing small changes in Derek's behavior. Nothing huge, just little things. He started working late more often, like 3 or 4 nights a week instead of his usual 1 or 2. He'd come home at 9 or 10 p.m., looking exhausted, saying he had client dinners or presentations that ran long. I believed him. His job is demanding. I didn't think anything of it. He also started going to the gym more, which honestly, I was happy about. He'd always talked about wanting to get in shape, but never had the motivation. Suddenly, he was going 5 days a week, early mornings before work. He'd leave the house at 5:30 a.m. to hit the gym, before his 9 o'clock meetings. He lost weight. He looked great. I complimented him constantly. He seemed happy about it. Then there were the phone habits. Derek started taking his phone everywhere. Bathroom, kitchen, even just to grab something from the car. His phone was always face down, always on silent. If I walked into the room while he was texting, he'd close the app or flip the phone over. When I asked who he was texting, he'd say work stuff or his buddy from college. I started feeling paranoid. Like, was I imagining things? Was I being a crazy, insecure wife? I talked to my best friend about it. She said, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. But I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to accuse my husband of cheating without proof. So I tried to ignore the feeling. Then came the Apple AirTag incident. I'm notorious for losing my keys. Like, at least twice a week I'd be searching the house, the car, my purse, trying to find them. It drove Derek crazy. So for my birthday, he bought me a set of Apple AirTags. 1 for my keys, 1 for my purse, 1 for my work bag. Sweet, thoughtful gift, right? I set them all up on my phone, synced them to the Find My app, and immediately felt more organized. About a week after my birthday, I was at work and realized I'd left my keys at home. I opened the Find My app to see exactly where they were so I could tell Derek where to grab them when he got home. I clicked on my keys. The location showed up, but it wasn't at our house. It was at an apartment complex across town, an area I'd never been to. I stared at my phone, confused. Why would my keys be at some random apartment? I called Derek. No answer. I texted him. Hey, weird question. Do you have my keys? The AirTag says they're at some apartment complex on Riverside Drive. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, he texted back. Oh yeah, sorry. I grabbed the wrong keys this morning. I'm at a client site near there. Must be pinging off a nearby location. I'll bring them home tonight. That explanation made sense. AirTags aren't always perfectly accurate. Sometimes they ping off nearby locations. I let it go, but that night, Derek came home at 10 p.m. No keys. I said, where are my keys? He looked confused for a second, then said, "Oh shit, I left them in my car, I'll grab them." He went outside, came back 2 minutes later with my keys. I said, "I thought you were at a client site near Riverside Drive." He said, "Yeah, I was." Then I went back to the office. Then I came home. "Why?" I said, "Just wondering." But something felt off. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the AirTag location, the apartment complex, Derek's delayed response, the fact that he forgot to bring my keys in. So I did something I've never done before. I checked the Find My app history. Apple keeps a location history for AirTags. I scrolled back through the past week. My keys, which Derek apparently had with him constantly, had been to that same apartment complex 4 times in the past 7 days. Always between the hours of 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Always on weeknights. My stomach dropped. I zoomed in on the map. The AirTag was pinging from the same building every time. Same apartment number. Unit 212. I sat in bed, staring at my phone, heart pounding. Derek was asleep next to me, snoring softly. I wanted to wake him up. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I needed more information. The next day, I told my boss I had a doctor's appointment and left work early. I drove to the apartment complex on Riverside Drive. It was a newer building, clean, modern, the kind of place young professionals live. I parked across the street and waited. At 6:15 p.m., Derek's car pulled into the parking lot. I watched him get out, carrying a grocery bag and a bottle of wine. He walked into the building like he'd done it 1,000 times. Confident, comfortable. He didn't look around. He didn't act suspicious. He just walked right in. I felt like I was going to throw up. I sat in my car for 2 hours. At 8:30 p.m., Derek walked out. He was smiling, relaxed. He got in his car and drove away. I waited 10 more minutes, then got out of my car and walked into the building. There was a directory in the lobby. Unit 2, 12, K. Martinez. I didn't recognize the name. I went back to my car and cried. I didn't know what to do. Confront him, gather more evidence, hire a private investigator. I felt paralyzed. That night, Derek came home at 9 p.m. He kissed me on the cheek, said he'd had a long client dinner, and asked what was for dinner. I said I'd already eaten. He made himself a sandwich, and we watched TV in silence. I couldn't look at him. I felt like I was living with a stranger. The next day, I called my best friend and told her everything. She said, "You need to find out who K. Martinez is." So I did what any person in 2026 would do. I searched social media. I found her on Instagram, Kelsey Martinez, 26 years old, gorgeous, long dark hair, worked as a personal trainer. Her Instagram was full of gym selfies, healthy meals, motivational quotes, and there, buried in her photos from 3 months ago, was a picture of her and Derek at a coffee shop. The caption said, "Best study buddy ever. Thanks for keeping me motivated." Study buddy. Derek wasn't in school. What the fuck were they studying? I scrolled further. More pictures. Derek and Kelsey at the gym. Derek and Kelsey at a park. Derek and Kelsey at a restaurant. All posted months ago, before I'd even noticed anything was off. My hands were shaking. I clicked on the most recent photo. It was from 2 weeks ago. Kelsey in workout clothes. Mirror selfie. Flexing. The caption, "Couldn't have done this without my favorite person. You know who you are." The comments were full of heart emojis and "you look amazing" messages. But one comment stood out. It was from Derek's Instagram account. It said, "So proud of you. You're incredible." I felt like the walls were closing in. I took screenshots of everything. Every picture. Every comment. Every tagged location. Then I opened the Find My app and checked my keys again. They were at the apartment. Again. It was 7 p.m. Derek had texted me 2 hours ago saying he had a work dinner and would be home late. I made a decision. I drove back to the apartment complex. I parked in the same spot as before. I waited. At 8 p.m., I got out of my car, walked into the building, and took the elevator to the second floor. I stood outside Unit 212. I could hear music playing inside. Soft, romantic. I knocked. The music stopped. Footsteps. The door opened. It was her, Kelsey Martinez, in person, even more beautiful than her pictures. She was wearing yoga pants and a tank top. Her hair was in a messy bun. She looked confused. She said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Are you Kelsey?" She said, "Yeah." "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Derek's wife." Her face went white. She stepped back. She said, "Oh my God." I said, "Is he here?" She didn't answer, but I heard a voice from inside the apartment. Derek's voice. He said, "Babe, who is it?" "Babe." He called her babe. Kelsey turned around, panicked. Derek appeared behind her. When he saw me, he froze. We stood there for what felt like an eternity. Me in the hallway, Derek and Kelsey in the doorway. Nobody moving, nobody speaking. Finally I said, "How long?" Derek opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. He said, "Let me explain." I said, "How long?" He said, 6 months. 6 months. Half a year. While I was planning our anniversary trip, while I was telling people how lucky I was to have him, while I was believing every lie, I said, "I want you out of the house by tomorrow." He said, "Please, let's talk about this." I said, "There's nothing to talk about. You've been fucking her for 6 months. You lied to me every single day. You're done." Kelsey started crying. She said, "I didn't know he was married." I laughed. Actually laughed. I said, "He's wearing a wedding ring." She looked at his hand. He wasn't. He'd taken it off. She looked at him, betrayed. She said, "You told me you were divorced." Oh, this was rich. He'd lied to both of us. Derek said, "Kelsey, I can explain." I said, "Don't bother. You two deserve each other." I turned and walked away. Derek followed me into the hallway. He said, "Please, just let me explain. It's not what you think." I said, "You've been coming to this apartment 4 times a week for 6 months, telling me you were at work, while fucking a 26-year-old personal trainer who thought you were divorced. What part of that is not what I think?" He said, "I love you. I made a mistake. We can fix this." I said, "No, we can't. I'll have divorce papers drawn up by the end of the week. Don't come home tonight. Go stay with whoever will take you." I walked to my car, got in, and drove home. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt numb. When I got home, I changed the locks. I called a locksmith and paid extra for same-day service. By midnight, Derek couldn't get into our house even if he tried. Then I called my divorce attorney. I'd never needed one before, but my best friend had gone through a messy divorce 2 years ago and gave me her lawyer's number. I left a voicemail explaining the situation and said I needed to file as soon as possible. Then I texted Derek, "Locks are changed. Don't try to come home. My lawyer will contact you." He called me 17 times. I didn't answer. He texted, "Please, we need to talk. I'm so sorry. I love you. This is all a huge mistake. Let me come home." I blocked his number. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of texts from people I hadn't heard from in years. Apparently, Derek had posted on Facebook a long emotional post about how he'd made the biggest mistake of his life and betrayed the woman he loved. He begged for forgiveness. He said he was a broken man who didn't deserve me, but was willing to do anything to fix things. The post had hundreds of comments. Some people felt bad for him. Most people called him out. My best friend commented, "You don't get to cheat for 6 months and then play the victim. Emily deserves better." I appreciated her loyalty, but I didn't want this to be public. I wanted a quiet divorce. I wanted to move on, but Derek wasn't going to let that happen. My lawyer called me that afternoon. She said Derek had already lawyered up. His attorney contacted her, saying Derek wanted to fight the divorce. He wanted marriage counseling. He wanted a chance to make things right. My lawyer said, "Do you want counseling?" I said, "Absolutely not." She said, "Good, then we'll proceed. But I need to warn you, if he contests this, it's going to take longer and cost more." I said, "I don't care. I want him out of my life." She said, "Understood. I'll start the paperwork." Over the next few days, I started piecing together the full picture. I went through our bank statements, joint credit card, Venmo transactions, everything. Thousands of dollars spent at restaurants I'd never been to, hotels, gifts, lingerie purchases, flowers sent to Kelsey's address. He'd been using our money to fund his affair. I documented everything, screenshots, receipts, bank statements. I sent it all to my lawyer. She said, "This is good. We can argue financial infidelity. You'll likely get a favorable settlement." Then I found something that made my blood boil. A charge from 6 months ago. A jewelry store. $1,500. I called the store. I asked if they could tell me what was purchased. They said they couldn't give details without a receipt number. I dug through Derek's email, found the receipt. A necklace, white gold, diamond pendant. I'd never received a necklace from Derek. I scrolled through Kelsey's Instagram. There it was, a photo from 5 months ago, her wearing the exact necklace. Caption, "Feeling so loved and appreciated." He'd bought her a $1,500 necklace with our joint account. While I was working 50-hour weeks to help pay our mortgage, I forwarded the receipt to my lawyer. She said, "We're going to take him to the cleaners." But I wasn't done digging. I wanted to know how they met. So I went back through Kelsey's Instagram, found the first photo of them together, 8 months ago. The caption, "New client. So excited to help you reach your goals." Client. Derek had hired her as a personal trainer. That's how they met. The early morning gym sessions weren't about getting healthy. They were about seeing her. I felt so stupid. How had I not seen this? How had I been so blind? My best friend said, "Because you trusted him. That's not your fault. That's his." A week after I confronted them, I got a message request on Instagram from Kelsey. It said, "I'm so sorry. I had no idea he was still married. He told me you two were separated and just hadn't filed yet. He said you were living in different places and co-parenting, but the relationship was over. I would never have been with him if I knew the truth. I ended things the night you showed up. I feel horrible. I'm sorry." I didn't respond. I didn't owe her anything. But part of me believed her. Derek was a good liar. If he could lie to me for 6 months, he could lie to her too. Still, she should have asked more questions. She should have noticed the missing ring. She wasn't blameless, but Derek was the one who made vows. Derek was the one who promised to love and honor me. He was the villain here. 2 weeks later, Derek showed up at my work. Security called me and said there was someone in the lobby asking for me. I went down. It was him. He looked terrible, unshaven, tired. He said, "Please, just give me 5 minutes." I said, "You have 2. He said, "I know I fucked up. I know I hurt you. But I love you. I never stopped loving you." Kelsey was a mistake. A stupid, selfish mistake. I was going through something, and I handled it wrong. But I want to fix this. I want us to go to therapy. I want to fight for our marriage. I said, "You didn't fight for our marriage when you were fucking someone else 4 times a week. You don't get to fight for it now." He started crying. "Please, I'll do anything." I said, "Sign the divorce papers. Don't contest it. Give me the house. That's what you can do." He said, "I can't just walk away from 7 years." I said, "You already did, 6 months ago." I turned and walked back into my building. That was the last time I saw him in person. The divorce took 4 months. He eventually stopped contesting it. My lawyer got me the house, half of his retirement account, and he had to pay back the money he'd spent on Kelsey. $15,000 total. The judge wasn't kind to him, especially after we presented evidence of the affair and the financial infidelity. When the divorce was finalized, I didn't feel sad. I felt free. My best friend threw me a divorce party. She made a cake that said "Happily Never After" with a photo of Derek's face crossed out. We drank wine. We laughed. We burned old photos of him. It was cathartic. One of my friends asked, "Do you think he's still with Kelsey?" I said, I don't know and I don't care, but I was curious, so I checked her Instagram one last time. She deleted all the photos of Derek. Her most recent post was from a week ago. A quote, "Sometimes the hardest lessons teach us the most about who we are." I took that as confirmation that they were done too. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was doing better than I'd been in years. I got a promotion at work. I started therapy to process the betrayal and rebuild my self-worth. I went on a solo trip to Italy and had the time of my life. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with. I adopted a dog. I started dating again. Casually, nothing serious. I was genuinely happy. And then, one random Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. I said hello. A woman's voice said, "Is this Emily?" I said yes. "Who's this?" She said, "My name is Rachel. You don't know me, but I'm married to Derek's co-worker, Mike. I need to talk to you about something." My heart started racing. I said, "Okay." Rachel said, "I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to say it. Derek is engaged." I was silent. She continued, "He proposed to Kelsey 2 weeks ago. They're getting married in 3 months. And here's the thing. Mike told me something that I think you need to know. Derek has been telling people, including Kelsey, that you were the one who cheated, that the marriage ended because you had an affair, and he tried to forgive you but couldn't. He's completely rewriting history." I felt my blood pressure spike. I said, "Are you fucking serious?" Rachel said, "I'm so sorry. I felt like you deserved to know. Mike didn't want to get involved, but I told him this is wrong. Derek is lying and making you look like the bad guy." I thanked Rachel and hung up. I sat on my couch, shaking with rage. Derek was telling people I cheated. After everything he did, after I caught him, after the divorce settlement explicitly cited his infidelity. I called my best friend. I told her what Rachel said. She said, "Fuck him. Let him lie. Anyone who matters knows the truth." I said, "But what about people who don't know? What about mutual friends who believe him?" She said, "Then they're not your friends." She was right, but it still hurt. The idea that Derek was out there playing the victim, getting sympathy, while I was the one who'd been betrayed, it made me sick. I thought about reaching out to Kelsey, warning her, telling her the truth. But then I realized she chose to believe him once. She'd probably choose to believe him again, and honestly they deserved each other. 2 liars, building a relationship on a foundation of lies. I hoped it crumbled. A month later, I got a text from an unknown number. It said, "This is Kelsey. I need to talk to you. It's important. Can we meet?" I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it and block her, but curiosity got the better of me. I texted back, "Why?" She said, "Because I think Derek is lying to me, and I think you're the only person who can tell me the truth." We agreed to meet at a coffee shop. Neutral territory. When I walked in, Kelsey was already there, sitting in a corner booth. She looked different than the last time I'd seen her. Thinner, tired, less confident. I sat down across from her. She said, "Thank you for meeting me." I said, "What do you want, Kelsey?" She took a deep breath. "Derek told me you cheated on him, that you had an affair with someone from your work and he tried to forgive you but couldn't. He said the divorce was your idea because you wanted to be with the other guy. Is that true?" I laughed bitterly. I said, "No, that's not even close to true." I pulled out my phone. I showed her the screenshots I still had, the Find My app history showing Derek's location at her apartment 4 times a week, the Instagram photos of them together while we were still married, the bank statements showing thousands of dollars spent on her, the jewelry receipt for the necklace he bought her with our joint account, the divorce settlement that explicitly cited his infidelity. Kelsey's face went pale. She said he told me all of this was fake, that you fabricated evidence to make him look bad in the divorce. I said, "Why would I fabricate GPS data, receipts, and a legal document that a judge signed off on?" She didn't have an answer. She started crying. She said, I'm such an idiot. I said, why are you marrying him? She said, because I thought we were victims of your manipulation. He said, you destroyed his life. He said, you took everything from him. He said I was the only good thing he had left. I felt bad for him. I wanted to help him rebuild. I said, Kelsey, he's a liar. He lied to you about being divorced. He lied to you about me cheating. He's probably lying to you about 100 other things. Why are you still with him? She said, because I'm pregnant. Everything stopped. I said, what? She said, I'm 12 weeks pregnant. That's why he proposed. When I told him, he said it was a sign that we're meant to be together, that we're starting a family. I wanted to believe him, but things haven't felt right. He's been distant. He works late all the time. He's secretive with his phone. It feels familiar, like how you described your marriage. I said, you think he's cheating on you? She nodded. I found texts on his phone from someone named Jessica, flirty texts. He said she's just a friend from work. But that's what he told me about you, wasn't it? That we were just friends. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream, I told you so. Part of me felt bad for her. She was young, pregnant, and trapped with a serial cheater. I said, what are you going to do? She said, I don't know. I can't raise a baby alone. I don't have family support. My parents disowned me when they found out I was dating a married man. Even after Derek told them you were separated, they said I should have stayed away. I have nobody. I said, you can't stay with him just because you're scared. She said, easy for you to say. You don't have a baby on the way. She was right, I didn't. But I also knew what it was like to waste years on someone who didn't deserve me. I said, Kelsey, if you stay with him, this is your future. Lies, cheating, constantly wondering where he is and who he's with. Do you want to raise a child in that environment? She didn't answer. I said, you deserve better. Your baby deserves better. She wiped her tears. She said, can I ask you something? I said, sure. She said, do you think he ever loved me? Or was I just convenient? I thought about it. I said, I think Derek loves the idea of being loved. He loves attention. He loves feeling wanted. But I don't think he's capable of actually loving someone else. Because love requires honesty, sacrifice, and putting someone else first. Derek only knows how to put himself first. Kelsey nodded. She said, I'm going to call off the engagement. I said, good. She said, but I don't know what I'm going to do about the baby. I said, you'll figure it out. You're stronger than you think. She smiled weakly. Thank you for meeting me. I know you didn't have to. I said, you're right. I didn't. But I wouldn't wish Derek on anyone, not even you. We left the coffee shop and went our separate ways. I never heard from Kelsey again, but a few weeks later, I saw that Derek had deleted all his social media. No Facebook, no Instagram, nothing. I asked Rachel, Mike's wife, if she knew what happened. She said Mike told her that Derek and Kelsey broke up. Kelsey moved back to her hometown. Derek was spiraling. He'd been fired from his job for inappropriate behavior with a co-worker, the Jessica that Kelsey had found texts from, and was struggling to find new work because word got around. Rachel said, Mike feels bad for him, says he's a mess. I said, good. He deserves to be a mess. I know that sounds harsh, but after everything he put me through, after the lies, the betrayal, the financial abuse, the public smearing of my name, I didn't have an ounce of sympathy left. A year after my divorce, I was at a work event, networking, schmoozing, the usual. I was talking to a potential client when I felt someone staring at me. I turned around. It was Derek. He was across the room, holding a drink, looking right at me. My stomach dropped. What was he doing here? This was my industry, my event. He didn't belong here. I excused myself from the conversation and walked over to him. I said, what are you doing here? He said, I'm trying to get back on my feet. I heard this event was good for networking. I said, you need to leave. He said, it's a public event. I have a right to be here. I said, fine, but stay away from me. I started to walk away. He grabbed my arm. I yanked it back. Don't touch me. People were starting to stare. He said quietly, "I'm sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know I regret it every day. Losing you was the biggest mistake of my life." I looked at him, really looked at him. He looked terrible, older, worn down, defeated, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no pity, just nothing. I said, "You didn't lose me, Derek. You threw me away. There's a difference." I walked away. He didn't follow. That was the last time I saw him. Months later, I heard through the grapevine that Derek had moved to another state, started over. I didn't care. He was a chapter of my life that was closed. A painful, ugly chapter, but closed nonetheless. 2 years after my divorce, I met someone new. His name was Alex. He was kind, honest, and emotionally available. Everything Derek wasn't. Our first date was supposed to be coffee, but we talked for 4 hours and ended up getting dinner too. He made me laugh. He listened when I talked. He didn't play games. On our third date, I told him about Derek, about the cheating, the lies, the divorce. I expected him to run. Instead, he said, "That must have been so hard. I'm sorry you went through that, but I'm glad you're here now." He didn't pity me. He didn't treat me like I was broken. He just accepted my past and focused on the present. We've been together for a year now. He's met my friends, my family. They all love him. My best friend says, "This is what a real partnership looks like," and she's right. Alex doesn't make me question his whereabouts. He doesn't hide his phone. He doesn't make me feel crazy for having concerns. He's just present, honest, real. Sometimes I think about the Apple AirTag, that tiny piece of technology that revealed the truth I'd been too afraid to see. If I hadn't put it on my keys, I might never have known. I might have stayed with Derek for years, oblivious, while he lived a double life. In a weird way, that AirTag saved me. It gave me the evidence I needed to trust my gut and walk away. I don't regret the divorce. I don't regret confronting Derek and Kelsey. I don't regret any of it, because it led me here, to a life where I'm valued, respected, and loved the way I deserve. People ask me if I ever think about Derek. Honestly, no, he's irrelevant to me now. He's a cautionary tale I tell at dinner parties when someone asks about my ex. He's a reminder of what I'll never tolerate again. But he's not a part of my life, and that's exactly how I want it. If I could go back and give myself advice on that night, I found the AirTag location at Kelsey's apartment, I'd say this: trust yourself. You're not crazy. You're not paranoid. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore red flags. Don't make excuses for someone who's lying to you. And when you find the truth, don't run from it. Face it, process it, and then let it go. Because holding on to anger and betrayal only hurts you. Derek lives with his choices every day. That's his burden, not mine. I get to live freely, knowing I did the right thing. I protected myself. I stood up for myself. I refused to accept crumbs when I deserved the whole meal. And now, I'm thriving. I have a career I love, friends who support me, a partner who cherishes me, a dog who thinks I'm the best thing in the world. I have peace, and peace, after years of chaos, is everything. So to anyone reading this who's found evidence of cheating, who's questioning their gut, who's scared to confront the truth, I want you to hear this. You deserve honesty. You deserve loyalty. You deserve a partner who doesn't make you feel like you're going insane. If you find proof, don't ignore it. Don't rationalize it. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking you're overreacting. Trust the evidence. Trust yourself. And then, make the hard choice. Walk away. It's going to hurt. It's going to be messy. It's going to feel like your world is ending. But I promise you, on the other side of that pain is freedom. And freedom is worth every hard day. The Apple AirTag didn't just track my keys. It tracked my husband's lies. And in doing so, it set me free.